guys, I'm Linda.
And I'm Vicky.
And we are
Partners in Crime.
Plus two.
I mean,
as far as they're concerned.
I know that police lie. I was arrested one time years ago. I don't know if it's like I was arrested wrong. There was a guy that pulled a gun out. I was at the Val Rio restaurant, Phoenixville, and there was a fight that broke out.
Let me stop Keith right there. If you watch The Blob, that's the diner that movie The Blob, yes, this was where Keith lives, is where The Blob was filmed.
Right.
So the Val Rio diner is a diner in that.
I was at this diner. There was a bar right next door. I don't know if it was like New Year's Eve or something. Anyway, I ended up talking to this guy. I was drinking, and I mean, that's what was kind of cool. You could drink all night and then go to the diner for breakfast at 2 a.m. and then sober up and walk home.
It's not there anymore, though.
You can walk home.
You can still do that.
The thing was cool about it is you could walk home.
Right.
And so I ended up meeting this guy whose son was killed in Iraq, and I was in the Army, and so I was really sympathetic towards him. And he actually worked. He was working there. He was the guy the maitre d' or whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so this skirmish breaks out front of the thing. He jumps up, and I'm like, oh man, I got to follow him because I felt sympathy for him. I don't want to give him trouble. I want to back him up. You get out there. I mean, within minutes, the cops are there. Apparently, I didn't notice at the time, but apparently some guy pulled a gun. It was one guy was with some guy's girl, and they were fighting over a girl, and he pulled a gun out. Well, there's tons of people. Everybody gets arrested. We all get put up against the wall, and the cops are there, and my shoe's untied, and
because you tried to tie your shoe.
I dropped down to tie my shoe, and they were like on me.
Oh my goodness.
I'm in the car. Well, fine. I mean, I can live with that. Well, the cop, I know his name too. His name was Pacifico. I was stupid. It was stupid, and there was a bit of arrogance.
He was not thinking, yeah.
It was stupid and a bit of arrogance. Anyway, well, I get arrested. I find out how I found out what happened was I got him in a cell, and the guy next to me is one of the guys involved in the gun thing.
Oh wow!
But it wasn't the guy with the gun. It was the guy that the guy pointed the gun at. So I get arrested, and this cop is saying that I am the guy with the gun, and I'm like, "There's no way, right? I know that's not true." They would not listen to me. They wouldn't take any information from me whatsoever. They arrest me. I'm sitting in a cell next to the guy. It gets worse. I mean, it gets worse and better. But here's what happens. I sit in the cell next to the guy. The guy's telling me, I know it wasn't you, man. I know he knows who the guy is. Anyway, I ended up spending the night in jail, getting out. I get a court date, and I'm like, I got all these charges against me, having a gun, shooting, pointing at somebody, and I'm like, what am I going to do? Because I tracked this guy down. I tried to track this dude down. Because I met him. He was at the bar. I kept going there, trying to figure out, asking people. I ended up finding him the night before my hearing. I tell him the story. I tell him what happened. I was like, can you come and be my witness? He's like, absolutely. So we get there, we're separated, right? The judge separates us so that we can't, I guess, collaborate or whatever.
Right,
anyway, tell the whole story. I was not afraid because I knew this guy can only tell the truth. If he tells the truth, I'm fine.
He was the one with the gun?
No, he was the guy working there.
At the diner.
All right.
Yeah.
It turned out he actually knew who the guy with the gun was too. He knew his name. So he told this all to the judge. Afterwards, finally, everything's dropped, right? This cop comes up to me after the thing's over and starts yelling at me that, I shouldn't have done this, and he starts yelling at me. He doesn't come up and say, man, I'm sorry. No, I don't know anything. Or he just starts yelling at me like I did something wrong.
The cop.
Yeah, like he didn't admit to his.
Because you tied your shoe.
Yeah, he didn't admit to what he did.
Never tired.
But that changed me, and that informs me. Like even when I watch this, you know, because before that, I just thought cops are good. Cops do the good thing. They're like Boy Scouts, but
Most do. Most do, but
I don't know about most or whatever. I don't
Yeah.
know, but you can definitely be sympathetic towards people that, especially in the black community, that talk about police violence and police abuse.
Yeah.
And I lived it, so I'm like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. The police do lie.
It's good and bad
And the
and
police,
everything.
Yeah.
because he didn't want to admit he was wrong, which, you know, it wouldn't have hurt him. It's like, I'm not going to do nothing against
Right.
him.
Yeah.
Well, I can't just say, all right, I messed up, or
Because it makes
I
him
don't
look
know,
bad.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Or not even that, just that anything, like to own what you did
Right.
versus yelling at me like,
Yeah. Well, you know, did you yell back or not?
no, I just was like,
Good.
You're like, I'm outta
Good,
here.
Good.
hey,
Good.
because I know he's a policeman there and I don't want to run into him again, you know?
yeah.
Well,
But I'm just saying that that's a thing that happens.
Yeah.
And this show actually puts a big light on it, especially when the Texas Rangers go after that Vic Feisel, who was either district attorney or attorney, whatever, for the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They go after him.
They do in the worst
Okay,
way.
so let's explain who Vic is. He actually started looking into this.
Well,
because
there
he
were
didn't believe
three. I
it.
think there were 3 murders in his jurisdiction
Okay.
that they were brought up, and he started like something's
This doesn't
fishy.
make
This
sense.
doesn't make sense.
Right.
And he started, and he is generally on the side of law enforcement
Right.
as a.
Because he is a law enforcement, right?
He actually was a cop, and he went to law school,
Right,
became a
right.
district attorney, and then
Right.
well, and he ended up. Going against what the Texas Rangers
were saying.
claiming,
Yeah.
and then they ended up trying to destroy him.
Yes.
They tried to destroy him.
They did. They almost did.
dog.
They
Yeah. They poisoned his
Yeah,
dog.
that's right. They did.
Took him up
did.
on racketeering.
Yeah.
well, they fed this reporter
Yes.
a bunch of stuff. This reporter ends up doing this whole expose on him. That Vic Feisel ended up years later, after his career was ruined, he got divorced. He had his family got
Right.
messed up. Well, he ended up suing and getting the largest settlement ever,
Right. For this
$5 million or something.
this journalist and the
He sued
station.
the journalist, the station, yeah.
But they did say in the grand jury, when he was put on trial, the only evidence that this grand jury brought him to trial with was the tapes from this journalist.
Right.
There's no other
Expose.
evidence, no physical evidence, nothing. Just what this journalist said. That is scary. That this grand jury brought him to trial with just that evidence.
With newsreels, basically.
Newsreels
Yeah.
of lies
Yeah.
that this journalist was.
I know.
And they had tried to get other attorneys to say that he had bribed them or gave them money.
Right, there's bribing
Right.
too.
And that was part of the racketeering charges.
Right.
He had no,
Right.
And they were saying no, he
They
never did
never
that.
offered me anything.
Yeah, and they were afraid that they were going to get.
Then
Well, they
they
were
would look
afraid
at
too.
them.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to say anything because they
Right.
thought that they would
Well, because
start
the
looking
Texas
into them.
Rangers, and that's where they bring in that guy that was the head of the Texas Rangers, which
Right.
is also, he was involved in something else, like, wasn't he involved in the McCarthy hearings or something? He was involved
Yes.
in some,
Yes.
was it a McCarthy?
I know they brought that
Nixon. No, J. Edgar Hoover. He worked for the FBI.
Okay.
So he was. Is
I thought he
McCarthy
was,
with?
McCarthy was a Republican senator, was
Yeah,
people
yeah,
communist.
yeah.
He had
No,
something to
this
do with
was the FBI. J. Edgar Hoover.
J. Edgar Hoover, yeah.
Yeah,
But they were, this is all the same time period.
Okay, I don't know that
it
much
was
about
exactly.
it, but I do remember them talking about J. Edgar Hoover, him being a part of the FBI.
Well, he also had a
and-
shady past of being overly aggressive
right.
lawman.
And, well, they were
lying.
watching people. They were what is that called?
Surveillance.
Surveillance. Yes. So
Okay.
that's what they were talking about in that.
scary, isn't it? That it could be such a big lie.
Well, the
that
other
they all-
kind of connection of names or name dropping, that's the thing about this documentary, the name dropping.
There's a lot of people.
Tons of people.
Yeah.
George W. Bush
Yes.
Yes.
commuted the sentence
Yep.
He
of-
did, of Lucas.
He was the
Of
governor
Lucas
of Texas.
for
Yes.
Orange Sox, who, by the way, that Orange Sox,
So let's see who Orange
Something
Sox
Jackson,
was.
wasn't
This
it?
was a
Deborah
girl
Jackson.
her
that
name was Deborah
found
Jackson.
Right.
with just her socks on, and Henry Lee did say that he had murdered her, and then he said, "Oh yeah, I leave a lot of people naked with just their socks on." That's like his calling card or
Well, he
whatever.
had sex with the dead
So
people.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That was his whole thing.
yeah.
Well, George
But-
Bush, I think, said that
wasn't
how we should do it with the justice system is there has to be evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. And he said, in this situation, there's
There
not
is doubt.
evidence.
Yeah.
There's doubt.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we can't put someone on death row and have them be, murdered.
Right.
Well, the one thing
right.
that I found out too is that Deborah Jackson remained unidentified for 40 years.
Yes, that's why they called her Orange Sock.
Right.
Because they didn't have
Yeah,
a
the
name.
I mean, that's so
Girl.
sad though. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just
you know, you're just like you're just a nobody, man.
Well, you
Nobody
would
get
think
killed and
family
you're like,
members,
this is a piece
how maybe she didn't have a family. Maybe she
Right,
didn't
of
have
course.
people that
She
cared
was.
about
She
her.
didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, she had a sister. Her sister. They did a sketch of her,
Mm-hmm.
and it was I forget how that was put out there, but her sister identified her, and then they
Okay.
did a DNA test with the sister, and that's
And
how they
that's how
found
they
out
found
that
it.
was her.
Okay. Yeah.
But she was just totally forgotten. A person that was just forgotten, left in
Yeah.
a damn ditch.
That's sad.
Speaking of sketching, Henry Lucas did a lot of sketching.
Right, he would
Yeah.
draw
Of
all
his
people,
Yes.
victims.
which is
Yeah.
Which were just from pictures. Though,
I mean,
so.
of course, they showed him pictures, so
Yeah.
they don't show you that, but
Yeah.
But then it's very convincing. It becomes very convincing
Yes,
that he's
yes.
able to
recreate
write all these
that.
details down, and then there's parts of the details that you kind of like, oh, it didn't match right. Oh, but he's so convincing. It's like, you let it
Right,
go, right?
Yeah. So yeah, George W. Bush did actually
Commute.
commute his sentence to death because of this was the only reason why he was put on death row was because of the murder of this girl.
Right.
Right. Not all the other 300 that he admitted to. It's
Yeah.
weird.
Right.
Yeah,
That
this
part
was
doesn't
the
get
other one.
explained. Why is it her that is the only death
I don't know.
sentence?
They don't
And then
explain.
the other,
They don't explain
you
that.
kill your mom, you kill your
Yeah.
live-in girlfriend.
Right.
Were they not in Texas?
I guess it must have been.
I don't
Because I know that Henry Lee Lucas is from Virginia.
Right. So yeah, this woman was murdered in Texas, and I believe that's why, because Texas did have the death penalty, and they did kill, or I don't know what you call it when you die from the death penalty.
I wonder
but
too, is that because
Executed.
the one thing
there you
about
go.
George Bush is it wasn't a habit of his to commute death sentences.
No.
No, especially from Texas.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, he said there were very few and far between that they were commuted, but like you said, Marjorie, it's because there was doubt that he even committed this crime.
Right.
Well, Henry Lee Lucas did die of natural causes in prison.
Mm-hmm.
And they
And
sho-
so did Tool.
and so did Tool.
Oh, it was Tool. Yep.
But they did show the funeral.
Yes, and there was
very few people there.
Yeah.
The
The woman that was
social worker,
the woman that was the
minister.
in Senate.
Yeah.
She was there. They invited Vic, but he wouldn't go because he was caught up in the Becky case where he believed the
Right.
woman who said she was Becky.
Because again, that's the same thing where he wanted to believe that that Lucas was innocent of all this stuff and making
Yeah.
it all up.
Yeah.
And now now he's got proof, and then he fell for it, right?
Yeah, he fell for it. So he was just so,
It's just
taken down by that he didn't want to go to his funeral.
well, it really to
so
me it connects to the whole right-left thing going on in this country right now, where the news is not the news, and you can just believe whatever you want to believe if
Yeah.
it fits you. you know, whatever. If you don't,
it's
if you think
scary
the media
world.
lies, then you believe this person. If you think this guy lies, it's,
Yeah,
right?
I know.
And this thing actually documents that it is real. That we end up believing what we think is. We end up creating our own truths a lot of times, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, would
Even
you like to hear?
professionals,
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
right?
Would you like to hear my police story before we?
Oh yes. Sorry. I
Are you
think
a
I
police story?
I
interrupted you.
have a police story.
Go, sister.
However, I wasn't arrested.
Oh, boo. Try
But
harder next time.
you're going to appreciate this story. I was probably 13 years old, and I was sitting with, and this is in Philadelphia, and I was sitting with a bunch of my friends, it was probably 7 of us, sitting on the schoolyard steps, drinking beer.
Mm.
Yeah, I know, I don't know where we were going from.
Well, that's what people do when they're 13 in Philly.
That's right. It's the norm. But anyway, next thing I know, a paddy wagon. Do you remember paddy wagons?
Yeah, I know that.
I remember this story. I was waiting for you to get to the paddy wagon
They
part.
call it a van,
Now it's a
Now it's
van.
a
box
van.
van,
But then it was
truck.
a paddy wagon.
box truck.
It pulled up and they took us all and threw us in the paddy wagon. And the 2 police that were in the van were saying things like it was a Jewish holiday, a very high, holy Jewish holiday.
Okay.
It's the Jewish New Year.
Yom Kippur.
Well, it was Rosh Hashanah.
Okay, Rosh Hashanah. Okay.
And they were saying things like, this was a Jewish neighborhood. Getting all juiced up for the New Year, girls. And there was one boy with us who he couldn't hear and he couldn't speak very well.
Mm.
So, but what he did speak was profanity.
He probably had Tourette's. They just didn't know it.
I don't know what, well, he was so funny. But anyway, they took us all to the police station, and when we got there, because they were getting such a kick out of this, they called all of our parents. And one by one, the parents came in. My friend, who I still talk to today, her name's Eileen, her mother came in, and her mother was a widow, and she was responsible for raising her children. Whacked on the head with her pocketbook. Took her out. Now the police are rolling. They're having such a great time.
And she would be have child abuse charges in this day and age.
It was fabulous. And then one by one, it was another story where the
They were
parents
trying
came
to scare
in.
you straight or anything?
I think they were just having a good time that night.
Yeah. Nothing else is going on.
They didn't arrest us. They didn't put us in a cell. They just called our parents one by one and came in.
And they wanted to see their reaction.
That's it. And they were laughing. They weren't, you kids need to. And they were just laughing, having a great time. And my father came in for me. And, I got to tell you, my father, let him rest in peace, and you'll forgive me, he was a bigot. He thought, he always said if he were president, all the Italians would go back to Italy, all the Polish people would go back to Poland, he would be the only one left on earth.
Right.
And he came in and he was doing this. He was, he said something about, some racist remark about...
All the Native Americans would go back to India.
Yeah, he was... he made some racist remark about who I was drinking with. And that wasn't the case. There was nobody else but my
friends,
my white girlfriends and this poor boy who could talk. But anyway, that was my police story, and I was horrified. I thought it was like, my father was like, this is such a disgrace. You're drinking on a Jewish holiday.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Well,
They were the days.
yeah.
But yeah, the
Well,
police
in
were...
Purim, they drink right in the synagogue. I've been to it.
Oh,
When you go to
yeah.
Purim, they get all liquored up right in the